from Creations with Christina. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you are having a great day. Today we're going to be playing with strips of cardstock. So I already took a bunch of strips of cardstock. They're cut at 1/4 of an inch and a 1/2 inch, and I laid them down onto some copy paper. And I did them in all different angles. I just glued them or taped them down to the copy paper. I did some vertical, I did some horizontal, I did some with the larger strips. I did a combination of the thicker and the thinner strips. And then I also did them in different colors as well. So we're going to show you a couple of ways that you can use these, not just for your card bases. You can definitely use these for backgrounds. There'd be so much fun as backgrounds, but I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you can use these pieces. My first example, we're going to be using this one right here. This is the one that I put together that has the thicker strips of cardstock. I used 1/2 inch, but you can do this in any size strips of cardstock in any measurement. So we are going to actually, with this one, run it through our embossing folder. I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine using this Loops embossing folder. And because we put the copy paper on the back rather than using a piece of cardstock to mount our cardstock on, it's not quite as thick. So keep that in mind. You want to use some copy paper to use as your base for adhering your strips of cardstock. It just helps it from being too thick. I really like how this turns out. That is just a quick way to add some design or some elements to some strips of cardstock. And you can do nice rainbow colors and use your embossing folders. Another way to use up these panels is to use them with dies. So I have this butterfly die, and because this is my panel that goes straight across, I don't want my stripes to go straight across my butterfly. I am going to put that at an angle, and we're going to run that through our machine. And then we end up with this pretty butterfly that is cut out with our stripes of our pattern paper. But the other thing we can do is, now we have this panel right here, we can take a piece of cardstock and put that in the background, where you can use that as kind of like a window for your card, but you also are using those pretty stripes. The next one we're going to do is along the same line. So I have my striped piece that I did with my die cut, but for this one I'm going to use a solid piece of cardstock. We're going to go ahead and take 2 of these butterflies and put them right onto a solid piece of cardstock. It doesn't have to be white, it could be any color that you wish. One of them I'm going to have going off the side a little bit, and we're going to run this through my die cutter. And then what we do is we end up with a panel that has a cutout of our butterfly. We're just going to set these to the side because we can use those another time. But for this piece, we are going to take our piece of our striped cardstock. This is one that's cut at the vertical, and use that as a background for those die cut areas. And what you could also do is cut this panel down before you mount it, so that it's 1/4 of an inch smaller than your card base, and then take another piece of cardstock, maybe one of the colors that you used for your stripes in your background, and put that in the back. And then all you have to do is add a sentiment or something right here, and maybe some gems or a bow or something, a little bit of texture. And that just makes a really fun way to use some striped cardstock. Another fun way is, when you have one of your panels all set, you can cut these down at 1/4 of an inch as well, going in the opposite direction. So I am going to cut this down, and my paper trimmer is not the best. I'm waiting for a new one to arrive. I even put a new blade in this, and it's still just not cutting the best. But I am just cutting a bunch of these at 1/4 of an inch, and I will show you what we can do with these. I'm just taking another piece of copy paper, and I am going to go ahead and add some adhesive to this. And I'm not going to kind of do it like I'm going to be using this right this minute, but I'm just adding a whole bunch of adhesive, and I'm going to take my strips that I cut down of my strips. So we're going to use our strips of our strips. And for this one, I am going to kind of stagger so that we're not always the same in each one. So we're going to create kind of a checked background for this. So I am going to keep just building this up, and then we can use this also to cut. You can use it to maybe do the embossing folder. You can use it to do as a background. You can use it for so many different things. A lot of the examples I'm showing today you can use it for. And I am just going to keep building this up. And then when we're all set, we could just put this right into our paper trimmer and cut this down to be a panel that we can use in the center of our card or anything like that. It's just a fun way to take those strips of cardstock and create something a little bit different rather than just using the stripes. There we go. I just think that would make for a fun background, and I really think that would be really pretty if you were using one of these types of panels where you're just using 3 tones of one color and staggering those. I just think that would come out really nice. You can also run that through your die cutter with your butterfly and create just another look. Instead of stripes, you can create more of a checkered. You could do the same thing and use it behind one of these panels as well. I think it'd be a little bit too busy for using with our embossing folders. So that's our 4th way of how to use your stripes of cardstock. And another thing you want to try is some sentiments. I'm using this sentiment right here, and instead of doing it straight up and down where the lines are going to be, straight up and down on my sentiment, I'm going to cut this at an angle, and I'm also cutting it in the center. I'm just going to add a piece of low-tack tape just to hold that into place, because I want to be able to use both of these pieces for my next idea here, my next technique. And then we'll just run this through our die cutting machine. And then we have our sentiment. I'm just going to go ahead and pop this out. I'm going to carefully remove the tape, trying not to tear the cardstock, but I'm tearing it anyway. I should have kind of stuck this onto my clothes, but this is just an example to show you how you can use these strips of cardstock. We have our sentiment all die cut. If you're doing a more intricate die cut, you might want to add your shim or a piece of cardstock or something like that just to add some more pressure, because you are going through not only the cardstock but the piece of copy paper that's on the back. But I love the way this turned out. But then we also have this piece right here, which can easily be added to a piece of cardstock in the background. And then you have a nice, another way of using our sentiment with a window. You can even make this into a shaker card, add some foam adhesive to the back and some sprinkles and sequins on the inside. And there we go. We have so many different ways that we can use strips of cardstock to create backgrounds, to create window cards, to use them as backgrounds for your windows, even make checkered pieces. That is so much fun. And die cutting your strips with different die cut shapes, as well as using our embossing folders. And don't forget, we can even use them with our sentiments. I hope you found today's video helpful. I will leave a link to the items I used down below in the YouTube description, or if you're on my blog, I will have it with this blog post as well. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can be notified whenever I post new videos, and please don't forget to give today's video a thumbs up. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.